My name's Arthur Pemberton. I was 19 years old when I enlisted in 1915. Seems like someone else's life now, someone else's name. I was a clerk before the war, worked in my father's office in Manchester, copying ledgers, filing papers. Dull work, but honest, safe. My mother used to bring me lunch wrapped in brown paper, ham sandwiches, usually. I can still see her hands folding that paper, creasing it just so. When the recruitment posters went up, I felt something stir. All those boys marching off in their uniforms, bands playing, girls throwing flowers. Your country needs you. Lord Kitchener's finger pointing right at me. My father said I didn't have to go, that clerks were needed too, but I felt ashamed, I suppose, like I was hiding while others were fighting. So I went. Told myself I was doing my duty, that I'd be home by Christmas. We all told ourselves that. Basic training was hard, but there was a camaraderie to it. Made friends, real friends. There was Jack Morrison, a farmer's son from Yorkshire, with hands like leather and a laugh that could shake walls. And Peter Keating, a teacher from Liverpool who'd quote poetry while we cleaned our rifles. Said he wanted to see France experience something real. He got that, I suppose. We all did. By spring of 1917, I'd been in France nearly 2 years. I'd seen the Somme. I'd seen things that made me understand why some men put a bullet in their own heads. But nothing prepared me for April 1917, for what came with the wind that night. Some memories fade. This one never does. It sits behind my eyes, waiting. Always waiting. We were holding a section of trench near Arras. Nothing special about it. Just another stretch of mud and sandbags and rats. The rats were everywhere by then. Big as cats, some of them. They'd gotten fat on the dead. It had been quiet for a few days. Too quiet. The old-timers knew what that meant. Jerry was planning something. You could feel it in the air, like the pressure before a thunderstorm. We'd heard rumors about gas, chlorine, phosgene, some new devil's brew they'd cooked up. Command had issued us masks, the pH helmets they called them. Horrible things, like sticking your head in a flannel sack soaked in chemicals. But we kept them close. The evening of April 16th started normal enough. Cold, always cold, even in spring. Jack was brewing tea on a Tommy cooker, using water that probably had more mud than liquid in it. Peter was writing a letter home by candlelight, his fingers so stiff he could barely hold the pencil. "Think they'll come tonight?" Jack asked, not really expecting an answer. I shrugged. We'd learned not to predict anything. The war had its own schedule, its own terrible logic. Around 9 o'clock, the shelling started. Not unusual. Jerry liked to pepper us at night, keep us from sleeping. We huddled in the dugout, playing cards by candlelight, trying not to flinch when the bigger shells hit close. You learned to tell them apart by sound. The whiz-bangs, the coal boxes, the ones we called Jack Johnsons. Then, around 11, it stopped. Complete silence. That's when Sergeant Davies stuck his head in. "Gas alarm," he said. His voice was steady, but I saw his hands shaking. "Get your masks on, now." We scrambled for them, pulling the helmets over our heads. The smell of the chemicals in the fabric made me gag immediately. You couldn't see properly through the eyepieces. Everything was foggy, distorted. I climbed up to the fire step and looked out into no man's land. There it was, rolling toward us like something alive. A yellow-green cloud hugging the ground, moving with the wind. Beautiful almost, in a horrible way. Like nothing natural, nothing God intended. The gas alarm was ringing now, bells clanging, men shouting. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might burst through my ribs. The gas eventually lifted. Dawn came, pale and gray, like the world itself was sick. I pulled off my mask and immediately vomited. The air still had a chemical taste to it, metallic and wrong. My throat felt raw. My eyes were burning. But I was alive. That's what I kept telling myself. I was alive. The trench was a charnel house. Bodies everywhere. Some were still writhing, making sounds that barely qualified as human. Others were already stiff, their faces frozen in expressions of pure agony. The mud was mixed with blood and vomit and other things I won't name. The smell. God, the smell. Gas and death and human waste all mixed together. Jack was sitting with his back against the trench wall, staring at nothing. His mask hung loose around his neck. He was breathing, but it was labored, wheezing. He'd gotten some in his lungs, I could tell. "You all right?" I asked. Stupid question. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me at first, then nodded. "Peter?" he asked. I shook my head. He closed his eyes. Didn't cry. We were past crying by then. Stretcher bearers were moving through, trying to sort the living from the dead. It wasn't always easy to tell. Some men looked fine, but had breathed enough gas to kill them slowly. Their lungs were destroyed, filling with fluid hour by hour. They'd drown over the next few days, coughing up pieces of their own tissue. Sergeant Davies was one of them. They carried him past on a stretcher, still conscious, still trying to breathe. Each breath sounded like tearing paper. He caught my eye as they passed, tried to say something, couldn't. Just that awful rattling wheeze. He died 2 days later in a field hospital, drowned in his own lungs, they said. One of the lucky ones, relatively speaking. Some men took weeks to die. Command told us to hold the line, as if we had a choice, as if any of us could run even if we wanted to. So we stayed in that trench with the bodies and the lingering chemical stink and the knowledge that it could happen again at any moment. We didn't talk much after that. What was there to say? We'd crossed some threshold, gone to a place where words didn't work anymore. I remember sitting there in the mud, looking at Peter's body before they carried it away. His pocket was half open, and I could see the letter he'd been writing. Never finished it. His family would never know what he wanted to say in those last hours. I wondered what my mother would receive if I died here. A telegram. Regret to inform you. Standard words for a non-standard horror. The tea Jack had been making was still there, cold now, a film of oil on the surface. We'd never drink it, but neither of us moved to pour it out. The cloud reached our trench maybe 2 minutes later, felt like hours. It came over the parapet in wisps at first, then in great rolling waves. Chlorine, they told us later, mixed with phosgene. I didn't know what that meant then. I learned. The mask was suffocating. Each breath was a struggle through the chemical-soaked fabric. My vision was reduced to 2 foggy circles of distorted reality, but I kept it on. God help me, I kept it on. Not everyone did. Private Wilson couldn't have been more than 17. He panicked, ripped his mask off, gasping. "I can't breathe," he screamed. "I can't." Then the gas hit him. I'll never forget the sound he made. It wasn't human. It was the sound of a man drowning on dry land, his lungs filling with fluid, burning from the inside. He clawed at his throat, his face turning purple, then blue. His eyes, Jesus, his eyes. They were melting, actually melting, tears of blood and tissue running down his cheeks. He fell to his knees in the trench mud, still making those sounds, choking, retching, gasping. It took him 4 minutes to die. I know because I counted every second, frozen, unable to help, unable to look away. "Keep your masks on," Sergeant Davies was shouting, moving down the line. "And don't take them off. Don't..." He didn't finish. A shell hit somewhere close, and the blast knocked him into the trench wall. His mask came loose, just a little, just enough. I saw him try to fix it, his hands fumbling, but it was too late. He breathed it in, started coughing, a wet, horrible coughing that brought up blood and foam. He managed to get the mask back on, but the damage was done. He slumped against the sandbags, wheezing like a broken accordion. Jack grabbed my arm. Even through the mask, I could see the terror in his eyes. We couldn't talk. The masks made it nearly impossible. But we understood each other. We had to stay calm, had to keep breathing slow and steady through the chemical-soaked flannel. The gas hung in the trench for what felt like forever. We couldn't see more than a few feet. Men were stumbling around, disoriented, some screaming, some silent. I heard retching, heard prayers, heard grown men crying for their mothers. I found Peter curled in the bottom of the trench, his mask still on, but he wasn't moving. I shook him. Nothing. Pulled him up and his head lolled back. His mask had a tear in it. Small one, near the bottom. Might have been from a rat. Might have been barbed wire. Didn't matter. Small tear. Big enough. His lips were already blistering. Foam at the corners of his mouth. His eyes were open, but he wasn't seeing anything anymore. "Peter," I said, my voice muffled by the mask. "Peter, stay with me." But he was already gone. The teacher from Liverpool who'd quoted poetry. Gone. All around me, men were dying, not from bullets or shells, but from the air itself. The very thing we needed to survive had turned traitor. Some were thrashing, drowning in their own fluids. Others just stopped. Their lungs gave up, surrendered. I pressed myself against the trench wall and tried to breathe. Just breathe. Don't panic. Don't take off the mask. Don't become like them. But part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted to rip the suffocating thing off my face and take one deep breath, even if it killed me. At least it would be over. It was 3 days later when I broke. We were still in the same trench. They hadn't rotated us out. Couldn't, they said. Manpower shortages. So we lived with the ghosts and the lingering smell and the constant fear that the wind would change direction again. Jack's breathing had gotten worse. Each inhale was a struggle, a wet rattle deep in his chest. He should have been in a hospital, but there were too many, and his case wasn't severe enough. Not severe enough. As if slowly drowning over weeks was somehow acceptable. I was on watch when it happened. Middle of the night, stars out, almost peaceful if you could forget where you were. Then I heard it. That sound. The sound of someone trying to breathe through damaged lungs. It was Jack. He was sitting up, clutching his chest, making these horrible gasping sounds, like Peter had, like Wilson had, like all of them had. "Jack!" I grabbed him, shook him. "Jack, stay with me!" But his eyes were wild, panicked. He couldn't get air. His lips were turning blue. He grabbed my uniform, pulled me close, and I could smell it on his breath. That chemical smell, still there, still burning. He tried to say something, couldn't. His grip loosened. He slumped back. I held him, felt his chest heave once, twice, then nothing, just nothing. Something inside me snapped. I started laughing. I don't know why. There was nothing funny, nothing even close to funny, but I couldn't stop. Great, heaving laughs that turned into sobs that turned back into laughs. I was holding Jack's body and laughing and crying, and I couldn't tell which was which anymore. Someone pulled me away. I fought them, screamed, used words I'd never used before, called God every name I could think of, called the generals murderers, called the war a meat grinder, a waste, a crime against everything decent. They sedated me eventually, stuck a needle in my arm, and the world went soft and gray. When I woke up, I was in a field hospital. Shell shock, they said. Combat fatigue, breakdown, pick your euphemism. They all meant the same thing. I'd seen too much, felt too much, lost too much. A doctor with kind eyes told me I'd be sent back to England. Light duty. Maybe discharged if I didn't recover. I should have felt relieved. I should have felt grateful. I felt nothing, just empty, hollow. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left only the shell. Jack was dead. Peter was dead. Sergeant Davies was dead. Wilson was dead. Most of my company was dead or dying, and I was going home. Victory, they'd call it someday. We held the line. We did our duty. But I knew the truth. There are no victories. Not really. Just different flavors of loss. I came home in June of 1917. My mother cried when she saw me. Said I looked thin. That was kind of her. The truth was I looked like a ghost, and we both knew it. They gave me a medal, pinned it on my chest at a ceremony with a brass band and speeches about duty and sacrifice. The mayor shook my hand, called me a hero. I smiled and nodded because that's what you do. But inside I was screaming. Hero, what a word. Heroes don't wake up every night gasping for air, convinced they're drowning. Heroes don't flinch at the smell of chlorine bleach or cross the street to avoid construction sites because the dust looks too much like gas. Heroes don't stand in their childhood bedroom and feel like a stranger in their own skin. I went back to work at my father's office. Tried to, anyway. Lasted 3 weeks. Couldn't focus. Couldn't sit still. Every loud noise made me jump. Every closed door felt like a trap. I'd find myself staring at nothing, lost in memories, and hours would pass. My father tried to understand. It'll get better, he'd say. You just need time. But time doesn't heal some wounds. Time just teaches you to live with them. I can't smell certain things without my throat closing up. Can't be in crowded spaces. Too many people breathing, using up the air. Can't sleep without the nightmares. Peter reaching for me with his blistered lips. Wilson's eyes melting. Jack's final gasping breaths. Sometimes I dream I'm back in that trench and I've lost my mask. I'm searching for it in the mud while the gas rolls in and I can't find it, and I'm breathing it in and I wake up choking, my sheets soaked with sweat. People say, thank you for your service. They mean well, but they don't understand, can't understand. How do you explain to someone who's never been there? How do you make them feel what it's like to watch your friends dissolve from the inside out? To know that breathing, the most basic human function, became a weapon. I'm 32 now, old for my age. My lungs aren't quite right. Sometimes I cough up blood, legacy of that night, even though I kept my mask on. The doctors say I'm lucky. Lucky. I don't go to the parades, don't march with the other veterans, can't bear to see the flags and hear the patriotic songs. They're selling the same lies that got us killed, just with different words. The war ended in 1918. We won, they tell us. We defeated the Hun, made the world safe for democracy. And maybe we did. But what did we lose in the process? What did I lose? Jack wanted to go back to his father's farm. He talked about it constantly. The smell of fresh-cut hay, the sound of wind through wheat fields. Simple things, good things. He never got them. Peter wanted to teach again, wanted to share poetry with children, help them see beauty in words. He's in a cemetery in France now, one cross among thousands. I'm alive. I came home. I survived. But Arthur Pemberton, that boy who enlisted in 1915 with dreams of duty and adventure, he died in that trench on April 16th, 1917. What came back was something else, someone else. A man who knows too much about how humans can suffer, about how we've turned science and industry into tools of torture. People ask me about the war sometimes, want stories, heroic tales. I tell them it rained a lot, that the food was bad, that I'm glad it's over. I don't tell them the truth, that I'm still in that trench, still wearing that mask, still listening to my friends die around me, still waiting for the next cloud to roll in. They say we won the war, but nobody wins. Not really. Some of us just died slower than others. I survived the gas attack of 1917, but I never came home. Not all of me. The best parts stayed in France, buried in mud and memory. What's left is just this, a man-shaped collection of scars and nightmares going through the motions of a life. They call us the lost generation. They don't know how right they are. We're all ghosts now. Every last one of us who went over there and breathed that air and saw what men can do to other men. We're walking, talking ghosts, haunting a world that doesn't want to hear what we have to say, so I keep quiet. I smile when expected. I nod at the patriotic speeches. And late at night, when everyone else is asleep, I sit by the window and remember. Remember Jack's laugh, Peter's poetry, the taste of my mother's ham sandwiches, the boy I used to be. And I mourn for all of us, the dead and the living. Because in the end, we all died in those trenches. Some of us just kept breathing.